Hello, everyone. And we confirm that you can hear me and see me okay. How's everybody doing? How is everyone doing today? I do think that people can see me. But can they hear me? What we're gonna do is we're gonna adjust again, just really quickly. And I can see people joining. If you can just let me know if my voice is clear. I've had a very long day and I attended an event with the IT, which was quite interesting, and lots of things to learn and take away from that event around voltage fluctuations, voltage control, the innovation projects across the different distribution network operators, and yeah, there's lots to learn. So I haven't really had a chance to prepare more and more. Usually I'll have thank you, so my voice is clear, excellent. So usually what I'll have is I will prepare some sort of like structure for these talks, but today and this week I've been really busy. I haven't had a chance. So what I did is just put some headlines and, let's say, broad topics to talk about. So let me know if you have any questions and if you want me to cover something specific. Today I want to make it a bit more casual, and I want you to interact more and give you more of your engagement, and basically just, let's have a friendly chat, kind of. I know I'm talking to the camera here, but at the same time, you could always write to me in the comments or tell me what sort of clear voice accent. Hi, Hassan. So, welcome to everyone joining me today. We're streaming on multiple platforms, of course, as you know. And if you wouldn't mind, leave any questions or comments, give me the thumbs up. I'd like this session to be as interactive as possible, please. So if the audio and video are coming through clear, which a couple of you have already said, please give me the thumbs up. Let me know. Let me know if there is anything you need me to cover or talk about into more detail, or even expand on, because we are, as I said, aiming to have a more interactive session today. So we'll give it a few more seconds for more people to join us, and I aim to not go over an hour, but we always say that, and we always tend to go for an hour and a couple of minutes, which is not the end of the world yet, I think. But please share in the comments and let me know if you've worked on something interesting this week. As I told you, I've been in a very, very interesting event today in Birmingham, and lots of learnings, which I will be covering in hopefully a video and an article soon. And as always, welcome to my live video today, We are going to be talking about navigating career choices for electrical engineers, the different, um, let's say, options and how people take decisions. And I've chosen this subject because it is one of the most interesting topics, in my opinion, but also I get a lot of questions from people in the messages and in comments sometimes, but mostly through the messages asking me about how to choose between different opportunities, which is excellent stuff. It's great. But I also understand that a lot of people can be frustrated when they feel they are um, they are probably feeling stuck or feeling not as successful with landing opportunities. So, as I said, let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I am, for those who do not know me, my name is Mohammed Yunus. I work as a director of design and engineering for Orius. We specialize in power grid connections and substations and energy construction projects, amongst other things, overhead line, etc., etc. And we're based in the UK. I've been in the energy construction industry as a designer and as an engineering manager, and very, very briefly as a commissioning engineer, many years as a lead engineer, as a protection engineer. So I want to share the knowledge, and I enjoy talking on LinkedIn and connecting with others. And, I think that more people should be doing this. I think that we need to spread the knowledge and learn from each other. There is a lot that we could learn and develop from just speaking with one another and gaining those insights from the ones who are, doing different work and jobs in the industry. And I want to connect with engineers. It's my number one source of personal growth. I always say that. But I think that we need to connect with more and more engineers out there to learn about what's happening in our industry and to learn about how the industry is developing, not just in the UK, but across the globe. And I want to push myself and learn from everybody as well. And public speaking, of course, needs the practice. So these lives are very beneficial for me. It is my opportunity to practice public speaking and thinking these things through and benefiting from you. And hopefully, also, someone out there finds it useful and helps them in their career. If you're joining me again live, just give me the thumbs up. And today we will talk about navigating career choices for electrical engineers, and we will focus on energy. And I want you to comment if you have a specific sector or a specific career that you find intriguing, and if you have an idea, for instance, that you would like to explore or share with us, please let us know in the comments. We will discuss little things that are easy to learn and apply. Uh, that's just the usual way. And these things, I believe, are small. They are easy to grasp, but once we apply them and we apply them consistently and make a habit out of it, they will make a huge difference. And if you get to know these things and focus on the very small actions rather than on bigger, let's say, assignments at a time, I think this can take you closer to your goals. And by the way, as always, of course, for those who follow what I'm doing and hear from me and get the emails from me, this recording will be in full on Substack. So please make sure that you sign up over there so that you can get the latest from me and we can connect over there. Now, what is today's subject, or what today's subject, who is it for? I believe that it is for mostly, of course, engineers at entry level. So those engineering graduates or those with even a few years, perhaps not more than 5 years of experience. it can be very, very overwhelming entering the industry or attempting or trying to enter the industry. So I believe that today's session is for someone like that mostly, but also anybody who's looking for more information. So it could be more experienced engineers who are looking to transition. And perhaps transition is not the right word, but people call it shifting. And again, these are all very wide, I would say, definitions. So they're not like accurate um, science, in my opinion. There might be someone out there who, of course, is more knowledgeable and far more educated than I am in these matters and can benefit us by telling us something different. But in my opinion and my experience, thinking of your career, defining what the word career means, and there are no hard lines here. Things are quite, I would say, fluid, and no, well, there is very, very few careers that are really alike. Of course, there are certain models that we could follow and take example from, but I believe that each of us can have their own different career that suits them, that is shaped by their background and circumstance. But also, um, it's not just for the younger engineers and those aspiring to enter the industry or those looking to um, transition at an early stage in their careers, or but it's also for the more experienced engineers, perhaps those looking, again, as I said, for a transition or a shift as they call it, and perhaps they spent a few years or many years gaining a skill, working on something in particular, and they would like to try something new or gain a different skill or certain experience that they are intrigued about and don't know where to start. I think this is very, very important. It's very valid. I certainly believe we are on this planet to enjoy life and live more and experience more different things, and experiencing different things at work is part of that enjoyment and part of that privilege, really. So I believe that it's very, very normal to feel that you, as an engineer, as an electrical engineer, would like to try different things and learn from different things, because I, I think this is what got us into the profession and the industry and to study engineering anyway. It's that intrigue and that curiosity and that desire to fix things. It's the desire to solve problems. It's the desire to build new things. And another aspect is it's very, very important, because if you don't think about your future and your career, you cannot blame anyone else but yourself. You are responsible for your career. If you don't get what you want at work, if you feel stuck at work, that's one's responsibility. That's not anybody else's responsibility. So this is why I believe that we are responsible to educate ourselves. We are really, really accountable to try and seek the knowledge and attempt to get the right knowledge to ourselves to enable us to take decisions, to enable us to plan for our work, because it's our livelihood. I mean, there are, of course, a lot that, or many people that are privileged enough to not take this maybe as seriously as others. There might be people who feel lightly about it. That's up to them. For me, this is my job, my livelihood, my family's livelihood. So I take it very seriously, and I'm actually enthusiastic about it. I have fun at work. I enjoy work, and that's not a bad thing. And this is something that drove me. And we will talk about values as well as part of this conversation today. How do we connect with our values and ensure that what we're doing doesn't conflict with that? Because if there's a conflict there, it's going to just ruin our mood and affect our performance and affect how we actually put our heads down and just carry on with the work in order to progress and focus on the right things. So, a disclaimer: career progression or career choices or these navigation of career options might and will mean different things for different people, because we're all different. We all want different things. We all come from different backgrounds. We have different cultural backgrounds. We have different professional backgrounds, different upbringings. The list is endless in terms of angles and aspects that drive how we perceive things, how we understand things, how we react to things, and how we interact and engage, and how we respond as well, and how we view things. So, as I said in the beginning, not everybody views career progression or career choices as an important thing. So, our needs, our wishes, our dreams, what we want in life and work, and um, desires, they all change, and they change over time. They change according to circumstance. I watched a video the other day. A guy on Facebook, one of the famous Arab influencers, and he was basically saying something that is very interesting. That he told a story that when he had a dream to get something, and it's usually something material like a car, a new car, or something like that. And when he saved money to get that dream of his, he always enjoyed the process and the journey to save day in day out, to work on taking a step forward and further towards his dream. But once he achieved it, it probably had a very short span of enjoyment, and then it became just something that he had no feelings about, which is very interesting. And I think this is very common. So usually the joy is in the journey. And this is why I feel career planning and thinking about our careers and thinking about our progression and taking positive actions towards what we aspire to become is really purposeful. It gives us purpose, it gives us meaning, but it also gives us a sense of satisfaction and achievement, and it does progress us as humans. That's for sure. So, as I said, a disclaimer: won't be able to cover everything. I don't know everything, and these matters are down to interpretation and down to a lot of differences in opinions and views. So take it with a pinch of salt. Always question what advice you get, as we say, and be critical and be analytical with what we discuss. Now, the benefits of that knowledge, in my opinion, is that without this knowledge, you are kind of in an uncharted territory. And I'll get to that later. But the benefits on the other side, or on the other hand, is that you can then plan better, you can achieve more. I find it easier when I have a plan or an aspiration, let's say, with certain defined rough steps that I need to take over a certain defined timeline, usually in matters of months, sometimes years. But when I do that, I find it easier for me to ground myself and put my head down, focus more. Otherwise, I tend to be the person who is in a hurry, quite emotional, sometimes sensitive. These are true things and aspects of my personality that I have to manage and have to deal with. And there's no shame in saying that. We're all humans. So I found with the career plan or thinking about my career progression as an engineer, I found it easier that it enables me to ground myself, put my head down and focus on the work, achieve more, and accumulating more and more experiences over time. And this is what you need, or what engineers need to focus on, I think, more than anything else, is really return to focusing on the job, on the process, on actually doing the work and enjoying that, finding enjoyment in it. So focusing more, taking more positive action. So let's see if we have any comments or questions so far. Do we have any questions? Someone is saying good night. Okay, good night to you. Is it bedtime? Yeah, I understand that. I'm joking, of course. They might say good night as a greeting, so hi to you. That was a joke. So someone is saying advanced metering infrastructure, so AMI as a field. Yeah, so I've come across actually manufacturers of AMI in the past, and it is a very interesting field. And funny enough, today they also were discussing about smart meters and how data from smart meters coming from the consumer or customer side can drive through algorithms, through the use of AI, can drive a lot of improvements. So good evening, good to see you again. Thank you very much. Good to see you. So let's carry on. Um, I I probably will want to discuss, what or not probably. I plan to discuss the career choices, the different career choices in terms of roles, but in terms of also subsectors within our energy sector, and how to navigate career choices, how to navigate career planning, how to navigate some difficult situations which we might feel we are in when we are looking for jobs or looking to transition, or other elements or other situations that we might come across as engineers. And we'll try to cover a lot of different but useful aspects, and we will try to delve into specific areas to learn more about them. The first one, I will attempt to shed more light on the nature of our industry. So, specifically, electrical engineering, but specifically within electrical engineering, there are many, many um, families of jobs and careers and different organizations, different ecosystems, dare I say. Um, so I'll try to focus on energy construction, specifically high voltage transmission, distribution, substation construction, the stuff that I worked on and the stuff that I can talk about. I will also give you a bit of insights on the careers that I've witnessed or seen, people I looked up to, etc., or still look up to. So we will try to delve into what are the different careers, how do people develop and find themselves progressing in the energy sector, specifically the substations, design, construction, and contracting world. And the second stage or topic that I want to cover is learning more about ourselves as engineers. And this is where it is very, very important. It is pivotal because not only that most of us are not aware or not self aware, we are actually not able to define ourselves as professionals, as a person. And I believe this is the most important step in order for you to learn how to navigate your career choices, what suits you better and what doesn't. So as simple as that, put it very, very simply. But we will get to also explain a bit more about how that makes a difference. And the third area for today we're going to be talking about is how do you identify and how do you get the tools to identify and navigate career choices and the right environment to enjoy such successful careers and opportunities. Where are the opportunities? Well, I will try to answer questions. I get a lot of questions from people who are telling me, I'm not getting any opportunities. What is the reason for that? I'm not getting invited for interviews. What is the reason for that? I go to an interview and I perform very well and I get very positive feedback, but then I'm not selected, I'm not offered. So, what are the different reasons for that? And of course, the conditions for you to grow, because unfortunately, and I get this a lot in the comments, I can talk about something or post something from my point of view, in my circumstances, from my background, from my experience. And this is a very personal thing. So it differs from person to another. So if I'm based in a country where there is a shortage, for instance, in electrical engineering, and I post about that, that doesn't mean that it applies to another country where people from that other place might come into the comments and just give their views on something that is not really meant for them. But everybody's welcome, of course. But it's very important to understand these differentiators. Engineers in the Middle East, in America, in Australia, in Europe, in the UK, in wherever, we're all different, and we live and experience different circumstances. So we gotta understand the context. And as we always say, when you take advice, take it with a pinch of salt, criticize it, or try to be critical of it, and examine if it applies to you in your context, in your circumstance, in your current situation. And then the fourth element we're going to be talking about today is how to plan for your career, how to plan for transitions, what do you need to do, and what the actions you need to take in order to grow and navigate more choices and opportunities in the energy sector. As electrical engineers, of course, I'm only talking about electrical engineers. So if you are any other type of engineer, you're more than welcome. But I only know about electrical engineering, and I can't claim I know everything about it as well. So this is something that is, as I said, always career advice, or these sort of discussions and conversations, they are really from a personal point of view. And the last thing we're going to talk about today is how to navigate your career and how to choose between the different opportunities when you are given or offered these different opportunities, because that is, as I told you, one of the most common questions I get, and I become very happy. But on the contrast to that, I also get messages from people who might be struggling. So it's important also to give some more hope and explain more about that situation, because we've all been through these feelings and circumstances in the past, and we still do. And we all struggle from time to time with different issues or things that are in our lives. So don't take the social media image of someone celebrating their career or their move or their promotion to be the ultimate happiness in the equation. At the end of the day, it's an equation, and both sides have to be equal. So don't get fooled by that. There is always a struggle. We all go through negative feelings. So if you are frustrated, or if you are struggling with your career, or you feel that you're not getting enough opportunities, you have to acknowledge the negative feelings and the emotions. We're all humans. You gotta deal with them. And it's important to not lose your head over it, and just try to gain more knowledge, try to speak to experienced people, try different things, try to push yourself into, let's say, different areas, and get that exposure. And hopefully eventually opportunities will come your way if you do the right things, because it's worked for others. There is nothing that stops it working for you as well. So we're going to explore these five different areas today. We're going to try to give examples. We're going to also give practical exercises and advice on how to identify and apply the different things. So within the electrical engineering industry, this is, of course, as I said, a vast profession, and with many sectors, many sub-sectors, many specialities within these sectors. And as a matter of fact, I've also seen that there might be two very similar titles or roles within the same industries, but there's only going to be one variable that makes them different. And sometimes that variable is the person itself, is the engineer itself. So no two people are alike in many ways, in many specialties. So there is no way that one person is going to be able to sit and talk to you about everything in electrical engineering, and not certainly I'm not going to attempt to do that, and not from an experienced way or point of view anyway. But instead, I will shed some light on what I know and what I've experienced, what I've witnessed. And these are the careers that are in the energy construction industry and the careers of the people I look up to, and the careers of the people that I admire, and the careers also that I feel, are not interesting enough for me. Um, that's a fair point as well, because what interests me might be very, very boring or mundane to other people, and vice versa. And this is why it's important, as we said, to identify with yourself. So, the different sectors in electrical engineering span across almost every major profession out there. Almost every industry out there needs electrical engineers. So, again, the folds within those industries are something yet to be discovered. For me at least, and please enlighten us. If you are an electrical engineer working in a different industry than energy, please let me know in the comments. What are you working on? What do you do? Etc. Etc. So, almost all manufacturing, production, construction, amongst others, pharmaceuticals, everybody or every such industry and sector requires electrical engineering. One of them is, of course, energy. And even energy is very, very diverse. The different applications, the different sources, the different mediums of transmitting the electrical energy. So, we will talk specifically, as I said, about the energy construction projects, and we will be categorizing based on the components, the systems, the countries, and especially the countries. We'll try to give a bit more of a view on what is the benefit to work in different countries as an electrical engineer. So, we will talk specifically about energy construction projects, which are usually turnkey projects involving many different specialities and different contractors, subcontractors. So, it's a big ecosystem. So, I want you to comment below. What is the one sector you are interested in? What would you like to learn more about or on today? So, let's see if I can answer you. And apart of course, from the energy construction industry, but get also, if I can't answer you, I promise to try and get you an answer from one of my contacts or friends. So, within energy, I see a rise in consultancies, and this could be set up by people who I find are usually very, very interested and intrigued in the field, but also have got a unique angle to offer. And the third aspect of those consultants that I find who are successful are the ones that really know their specialities. And usually they will come from a background of owners, or, like owning companies, transmission or distribution or network operators. They might come out of other bigger consultancies. So, consultancies or consultants are one or the first family of organizations that you can find within energy. And their line of work varies from very high level conceptual, you know, advice, and usually around regulations or other um, types of, or navigating different types of codes, and local practices in the industry, in the energy industry, to very, very specific and specialized areas where, there is a consultant who could, for instance, carry out a specific niche power system study, such as, a certain type of harmonic analysis and response study that is required for a special or unique type of project. The second family of jobs, which is, of course, my favorite, designing. And this is where I spent most of my 17 years of experience. Now, people can hear about 17 years and they say, you're still a baby. And that is true. It's all relative. It's all relative. So, when you talk to people who have got 30 years of experience, 40 years of experience, you need to listen to those people. And this is why I really like design. There is a lot of people in design who stay in design for decades and decades. And I think design is at the essence of what makes us as engineers. So, this is another family of opportunities in the energy construction industry. Designers who work on creating the concepts, developing the concepts, expanding on the details of the concepts, and really planning for everything to get together in a homogeneous and meaningful way. And for me, this is the essence of design: how to make things work, how to fix things that need fixing, but also how to solve problems, because every design is there to solve a problem or meet a requirement or deliver a result. So, design is usually for people who are more, I would say, it's a very, very mixed bag. So, I think it suits almost every type of character and personality. But we tend to be more comfortable as designers if we are detail orientated, if we are less into the talking and more into the doing. So we're more on the practical side, if that sounds right. And also, if we enjoy a challenge, I think this is what makes people interested in design. Now, there are, of course, many other, an array of and arrays upon arrays of other reasons that get people into design. Sometimes it's just circumstantial. People find themselves in design and end up there. But the great designers or the really competent designers and people that I know who could really design things and know their stuff have got attention to detail, they've got patience, and they respect their profession. So they really, really give time, effort, emotional, investment into their profession and the long hours they spend doing that certain thing. And of course, designers vary from, again, a wide variety of applications across different interfaces, but also there are specialist designers. So there are designers who would really design a small part of the system and not the rest. So there are different ways of course, of looking at design and different categorization ways. Um, Different designers are also differently specialized according to country, region. So, let's say a secondary designer in the UK is different to a secondary designer in Saudi Arabia. They do slightly different things. They might have different remits. And this is because of a lot of things. There is a historical context, there is a cultural context, there is, you know, um, industry practices that really drive these specializations and categorizations across the different families of jobs that we are talking about today. And the third sector or subsector within energy are the OEMs, so original equipment manufacturers, and those are the manufacturers of the switchgear, the devices, the equipment that go into the energy systems. So, specifically in substations, there are, of course, the big three or four players out there. And these are really good organizations for engineers. And you tend to find people who stay in those organizations. If you check those organizations on LinkedIn, if you check their, I think LinkedIn shows you, I know I've seen it, it's like a tenure or a median of the tenure. So basically, it's about the retention of people. So on average, how many years do people end up staying in companies? And I believe that apart from other cases, but more generally, you will find people sticking with the OEMs for longer. That's how I feel, anyway, and that's my observation, and that's from the people I speak to. And this is because I believe that over the years, those manufacturers they grow and acquire different companies. They have a way, they integrate correctly within that way, and they also spread geographically, so they have different. So engineers can really enjoy an abundance of opportunities, or more, let's say, not an abundance, strong word, but more relative opportunities to change countries, to change different jobs, usually within those big players or big organizations, and usually they are multinational across different countries, and they span decades and different generations. So usually a company of that ilk would really have a way, let's say. So it's a way, it's a set of contacts, it's a way, in terms of processes, in terms of tools, in terms of certain typical behavior around different things in operations or in management in general, down to the very little detail in finer and smaller areas, in different jobs. So that is the way, whatever. If the company's called ABC, that's the ABC way. So that way makes it more comfortable for engineers who are systematic, who are methodological, who want a process, who want to follow something from A to B to C to D, etc. So there is not, or there is less of the, let's say, chaos that might be, or freedom, let's say, that might be in other companies compared to the OEMs, because usually, and that is driven by the culture of the OEM itself, which is really heavily influenced by industry standards, quality, um, improvement driven, kinds of initiatives all the time, especially in manufacturing. Manufacturing is about scale, it's about Kanban, it's about a lot of processes in the manufacturing and conveyor belt type of culture. So that really drives and shapes the culture of OEMs. And this is why, for engineers who usually get into that ecosystem, they become, part of it, and they know. The more years you spend within the company, the more you know about, in terms of context, in terms of processes, in terms of where to find information, where to go to ask for information and for help. And that becomes a skill set on its own, and it becomes a resource, uh, um, a resourceful element on its own, or group of elements. And then, of course, my favorite sector is contracting. And I feel that I am more suited to being in a contractor, perhaps, organization. I don't know. I've worked in OEMs, uh, I've worked in OEMs and in contracting. And I haven't worked for clients. I've trained with clients. Um, I was a trainee with Saudi Electricity Company in Saudi Arabia, so um, that's probably and that was like 18, 19, 20 years ago. So I can't judge it as a professional experience, but what I feel is being a contractor gives you more autonomy, it gives you more freedom to try and just resolve things, and you're action orientated, and you are more about the results and relentless execution. So go, 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 go. That's the contractor mindset. And with being the contractor, you've got less time to think about things. You've got less time to decide. That makes it very, very constrained. That makes it very challenging, and I enjoy that challenge. So people who enjoy that kind of challenge will really thrive in a contractor organization. And of course, you get to see something from day one to day 365 or till the end of the project. So if you enjoy projects, if you enjoy the nature of projects, if you enjoy on seeing something as a concept, develop it, and then build it and see it energized, being a contractor is or being part of a contracting entity is for you. And of course, there are owners. So the owners who own the asset, who own the substation, who own the network, and they have got families of jobs again. And again, it's different from every country you go to and work within because it is driven by historical context, it's driven by how these organizations were formed, split, reformed, reorganized over time. And we're talking sometimes in some cases it's, I don't know, 80, 90 years. So the good thing about being an owner, I think, is also the ultimate freedom to learn about the asset. I think it gives you more edge to request information, to be able to get more, fed into you in terms of information, knowledge, experience. And I really feel that also, again, perhaps after OEMs, owners are organizations that retain engineers more than others. That's just my feeling and my observation. Another sector is maintenance, and this is now becoming very, very important because of the financial constraints and the rising awareness of the need for reliable networks, the criticality of having secure energy supplies. So maintenance is becoming an area that is thriving now. We are now able, with more data, with more digitalization, with more new ways of working, to extend the lifetime of the asset compared to in the past. And this makes it very, very promising for people who are interested in entering the maintenance field. And within maintenance, of course, you've got project managers, you've got site engineers, you've got electrical, you've got design engineers. So there are different families within that subsector as well. When it comes to operators, they might be also the maintainers, and usually in most cases they are. But again, operators are people who holistically view the network or the assets and make sure that they work together to achieve a certain result within certain regulations and set requirements. And I think that this is the least family of jobs I know about today. I really believe that operators have to be aware of the customer side of things more than anybody else. They also get to see the system behave in ways that are unique and perhaps not visible to us in the contracting side or the earlier stages of the asset lifecycle or project lifecycle. And this makes operators, again, a quite interesting niche. It's a skill set that needs years to pick up. It's an experience that just keeps on getting better and better and better with more years under your belt as a system operator or responsible for part of operating part of the system. And then there are, of course, in countries like the UK, there are regulators and governors and other entities that look after the legal side and how things are organized on a national level and on a very, very high level. And again, I think a lot of them are engineers and a lot of them are electrical engineers. And they are probably faced with a lot of challenges because it's no easy feat. And it's um, it's a very, very big challenge to look after the system as a whole, a system that's been built over decades, a system that parts of are actually, um, in some cases, or dare I say it, competing and working not necessarily every time with each other. So it's a very challenging, but again, people who get into that line of work, they look at the system from a holistic point of view. They look at the system behavior as a whole. They see the grid from a high level and an angle that nobody else perhaps sees, because this system, when it's connected, it's a big machine and it behaves in certain ways. And of course, there are the developers, the people who want to invest in energy projects and energy assets in order to gain and serve the community, of course. But again, these are like owners in a way, so they're not really very different, except they might be more and more commercial, they might be more and more profit orientated than owners or network operators. And again, that's just in my experience. If you know any differently, or if you've got something, please comment and let me know. And there are many, many, many more. And within each subsector or type, there are organizations and types of organizations, such as the ones I mentioned. But there are also within those organizations different families of jobs for electrical engineers. So the different families can be in project management, and everybody knows, I suppose, what project management entails. It's about, in my opinion, following a set process to get the result achieved and to get the project delivered to a set of constraints. So for me, it's about following a process, bringing people together, directing the resource, directing people, looking after a program and a plan, and ensuring, of course, the profit or the profitability. Um, I have seen a lot of electrical engineers who become great project managers, some of them great project directors, portfolio managers, heads of operations, CEOs. So I think this is a very promising field for electrical engineers. We talked about design, of course, so there are families within design. And one of my very favorites is testing and commissioning, because I feel that on site you get to learn more about the asset and the system and the equipment in ways that are not really afforded to you in other types of environments or other types of families of jobs, in my opinion, again. But testing and commissioning is very promising. It's also very lucrative. I think people in testing and commissioning can earn more than other areas, because they are on site, because they are under a tighter schedule, because they are under tighter rules. They are, in the areas where it's very, very, critical. This is the critical phase of the project. So, site testing, commissioning, don't underestimate that. And the one advice I always write, so people who follow me know, or follow the content I put out, know that I always write about, if you are starting out as an engineer, the best place to start out would be on site. And that's an opinion that I stand by. Um, I don't know, for a very long time. And of course, a job that I have worked on in the past and still do from time to time is design interface management, design management in general, and coordination. So that is a very, very interesting area for engineers who are willing to step out of the detail for a little bit, but they would, or to an extent. However, they must have enough depth within a specialty and enough just enough breadth across different disciplines to understand the nature of the interfaces on a system, on a substation, or something like a substation. Where are these interfaces that might conflict with each other? Where are they? What are their priorities? How are they to be covered and tied in between the different systems and the components of the systems? And moving on to the different geographies or countries, I believe, again, from experience, electrical engineering is the same. I've worked in 3 different countries. I've worked with many, many, many different nationalities. And I have found, of course, some very, very interesting ways in electrical engineering, but I've always admired, how different um, people from different countries did things slightly differently in electrical engineering. But for me, it's all the same. But in some cases, there are differences in, let's say, what we call or what we might call the philosophies and application. So, if you look at the philosophy of, let's say, distance protection in America, is different to what they use in Germany or Europe. And if you look at how, let's say, breaker failure protection is applied in the UK, is completely different or is slightly different to what how it is applied in Saudi Arabia, for instance. So these are different, philosophies. There is no right or wrong as long as it achieves a secure level, a sensitive level, a reliable level of protection and control. Then you're good to go. So this is why there was a book that was called the art and science of protection. I remember. Yes, it's an old book, but it's an art. It's a philosophy. There's no right and wrong in many cases, but it's more about the philosophy. And this could be due to a historic practice or a historic context. How things developed over the years, but also due to a cultural context as well. So the differences in different countries will also be reflected by the background of the people working on those countries. There is, of course, standards and local codes and specifications for each of the clients or each of the owners and network operators. And these all drive the different contexts in electrical engineering. Now, one of the biggest challenges I see is engineers or electrical engineers not open to trying different things. And I feel that we fixate on one thing, thinking that it is the ultimate destination. And this narrow perspective on career progression can really, really limit our opportunities and limit our prospects. So the lack of awareness is, that I would say the lack of awareness that doing different roles is beneficial, not detrimental. And the good thing about this is that the industry is, hopefully, as you can tell from what I said, is full of different sectors, different niches within the sectors, subsectors and niches, and families of jobs, and different ways of working as well. As I explained, different companies will have different ways of approaching these different families of jobs. We've gone over the hour, so I'm gonna now open the floor for some questions. Are you still with me, or have I sent most of you to sleep? I know I can sound calming and comforting, but please don't sleep while you are watching this live on LinkedIn. So, a message from, or a comment from Salim saying the future of electrical engineering lies in digitalization, renewable integration, and energy resilience. That is true. Opening new roles in smart grids. Yes. So, one of the things that was explained today in the IET event, it was called Voltage Matters. the Voltage Matters Forum. I think the name is interesting, and yeah, one of the things is smart grids, and it's really interesting that, for instance, in the UK, only 61% of meters are smart meters, and this means there is a lot of work to be done. And even I think with smart grids, I think not just in the UK but globally, we are only just scratching the surface, especially with AI coming through. I believe that it will reflect on asset management, as you said, but we will be able to understand more about the assets and examine the asset or the behavior of the assets over longer durations, because we've now got these more data points and um, measurements that we can process and basically decide from and look at trends, etc., with the help of AI. Now, this has been, of course, the research for many, many years, but at the same time, um, it is now becoming more and more, I think, accessible and more serious. Leadership, where engineers evolve from technical experts to strategic innovators. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Technical experts to strategic innovators. That's good. Uh, Someone saying good night. Good night to you as well. I have a question. Yes, please. How to plan for career in electrical engineering? So we're gonna cover the plan next, hopefully in a couple of minutes. How can we get UK or EU working rights? So yeah, so this is a question I get a lot. How can you move to the UK and work as an engineer, or how can you move to Europe? So I don't know about Europe because I haven't worked there. I've moved to the UK 10 years ago as an electrical engineer. So I believe, or from what I know, and I'm no visa expert, I'm not uh, an expert in relocation or whatever, only through my personal experience as an engineer and as a hiring manager, that there are three ways that people from outside of the UK can become engineers in the UK or can work as engineers in the UK. Number one would be to study in the UK and you get a graduate visa. And then after that, you get sponsorship if you are on the shortage list, which is basically a list where the UK struggles to find engineers, or there is a shortage of engineers under each family code. So that's the number one way. The second way is if you are really experienced, companies will sponsor you. So this is where I feel like a lot of people are focusing on applying for jobs to go to different countries, but they're not focusing on actually gaining the experience. So if you put the effort into gaining the experience, if you put more effort into doing more and in growing your skill set, adding to your CV, being able to communicate properly in interviews, being able to articulate about your experience, about your qualifications, gaining more qualifications, learning the language. I always say there is two languages to be fluent in when you are trying to apply for another country, UK or another. But if you are applying for a job in another country, you have to first be very fluent with the language of that country. So you need to be able to articulate yourself clearly, adequately, to a professional level, because there are terms and words in engineering that you need to be aware of in your profession. That's very important. You cannot just walk into an interview where your English is not up to the level and then wonder why you haven't been selected. It doesn't make sense. And the second language is really not a language that we speak, but I call it a language, but it's really about the context. So knowing what regulations apply to the different countries, because in the UK, for example, we've got CDM, we've got Electricity at Work Act, we've got the ESQCR. So we've got different regulations that you need to learn and understand about before going into interviews. And that's the second thing. So the second way is gaining that experience. The third way is a transfer. So you could always be working for a company that has offices in the UK and get transferred through that office, through that company. So there is the big companies, they encourage global mobilization of talent. and global mobility of talent, let's say. So these are, you know, the jobs. Now you need to focus on your skills and experience. And, you know, I always say it, if you have the right experience, you have the right skills, then you have the right abilities or capabilities to carry out the job, opportunities will be chasing you, not the other way around. Okay. Someone saying, hi, Yunus. Hi. My name is not Yunus. My name is Muhammad, but it's okay. Hi. What's the first, Sayeda says, what is the first step to enter the design field? What training programs should I consider? It's a very good question. So, in order to enter the design field in substations, for instance, I believe that you need to have very strong CAD skills. Now, today, you can learn Revit, you can learn AutoCAD, MicroStation. You need to learn the different CDEs, common data environments. So things like ProjectWise, things like Autodesk Construction Cloud. You need to really be very aware with these softwares and also understand more how to use them. Now, again, as a graduate, you're not really expected to have any experience. It would be madness to expect a graduate to have experience or even have a very proficient level. But think about it. If somebody walks into a graduate assessment panel or an interview as a graduate electrical engineer and shows, you know, printouts of what they have created on CAD, or show models of transformers and substations that they have worked on in their spare time, investing in themselves, etc., then you'd immediately put yourself ahead of others in the pecking order, of course. So that's very, very useful when you are a graduate. You need to learn CAD. There is plenty and an abundance of videos on YouTube. Of course, some of them are not accurate, but you can learn about substation equipment. So one of the questions we ask, and I'm gonna put or make a list of, you know, I don't know how many, maybe 50, 100, I don't know, let's see, but the questions that get asked on interviews, and some of them or many of them are for the graduates. We don't ask graduates about experience or stuff about, you know, that is testing their experience, because you're not expected to have experience, but you're asked about CAD, you're asked about communication skills, you're asked about the tools that you could use. So see what area or what field you're targeting, Sayeda, and explore or find out the design tools in this area and start learning them, start getting courses, certifications for them, and even trying at your own time. And best of luck. So there is Revit programs online. You could go for the official certifications, and even there are a lot of free YouTube videos that you could follow. And I think you get the license at a discount or for free if you are a student. A question from YouTube. Excellent. So, what would be better for progression, project management role, or mostly spend on tracking timelines and tasks, but not excess? Yeah, if you're a project manager, you're not mostly spent tracking timelines and tasks. It's, of course, a very important aspect of what you are going to be doing. But for me, a project manager is far more important and wider than that in a remit. The project manager is just the managing director of the project. You know, they are the number one person for direction, for decisions, for they should be having full autonomy because they can make or break the project. So they're not just tracking timelines or tasks. They're looking after a whole big process of interactions and flows of information and much, much more. So it's a very, very interesting job if you enjoy it. And your second part of the question is, or a mix of data and technical role with minimal project management. So you're choosing between two different roles, but It all depends on you. So, are you more introverted or extroverted? Do you prefer talking to people and working with people, or do you prefer doing your own thing most of the time? So, these are all different areas that you need to try and find out about yourself. So, we've gone further or far longer than an hour. Um, so, I want to call it a day. We still have more to say on this topic, so I'll leave it for another video or for the next video. But if you could please let me know in the comments if you have any other questions before we sign off for today. Now, the next steps are going to be about trying to understand about yourself, what motivates you, what values do you have or do you care about, and um, what do you really enjoy as an engineer, because that should drive the next steps. Now, let's say you enjoy project management or managing teams, then you'd focus on doing the tasks or taking the assignments that take you into that direction. And you'd be communicating about your progression in that direction. Likewise, if you prefer working on a design, then you'd work on developing your skills and building your experience through delivering more and more assignments and more work in that area. So becoming the expert in that area. So knowing yourself, you can know yourself through psychometric assessments and tests, which are available. I personally like the 16 personalities test. There are, of course, insights also. So you could be yellow, green, blue, or red. I'm usually red and green, which is an interesting combination, which means that I really care about people and I like working with people, but at the same time, I am action orientated and I will push, push, push at 100 miles an hour. So that's an interesting combination. And I believe that we are always combinations of these different personalities. We don't just have one rigid personality, we're always going to have different personalities. And it differs on many, many um, timings, circumstances, what side of the bed we wake up on in the morning. So there's lots of different areas and different factors that come into this. So please don't take it as a rigid and a narrow perspective. Keep your mind open and try to find out what you enjoy and what you like and what your values are, because that will drive or should drive what you should take next or what you should take as your next actions in your career. Without that, you'll feel stuck, you'll feel frustrated, you will face a lot of unnecessary problems or challenges, or even, lose focus. So it's important to connect with yourself and find, as I said, what you enjoy, what you like, what you want to be doing more of, what you're naturally good at, or what you're becoming really good at, and what you are being known for, versus, a further, let's say, aspect. The other thing is, before we go, just really quickly, the tools you need. I think the environment you're in, the working environment you're in, makes a big difference. So choose carefully. Of course, you gotta choose from the opportunities that you are offered, or um, the opportunities that are being made available to you. But at the same time, try to research companies, research people in the companies, research how people develop within and progress within these different environments. And the best environment you can learn in is one that you will be psychologically safe. You'll be allowed to experiment. You'll be allowed to change assignments. You'll be allowed to try different things. We live in an open world, so you need to be also getting into a more accepting and more open working environment, rather than stepping into something from the past. And the conditions, of course, are very important. Companies that are profitable, that are enjoying success, companies that have long terms of investment and value creation and long-term strategies are gonna be companies that are most likely gonna be looking after your progression, looking after or giving you more opportunities, let's say, in contrast to the companies that you might feel are not having as such. Very important aspect of having the right tools to navigate career choices or look after um, or decide on opportunities is mentorship. It's very important. I've found it very useful. And we talked about mentorship before. There is a video there about mentorship, so please go back and watch it and let me know if you have any questions. But in essence, having a mentor is like having the sat nav, somebody who's has access to information, has access to experience, has access to live data and live measurements, and can guide you and tell you how to act, how to find out more, how to learn more, how to try different things when you are in uncharted territory when it comes to your experience. So, and it doesn't need to. First of all, the first misconception is, you need a mentor. No, you could have more than one mentor. Mentorship also takes different forms. Sometimes it's somebody at work who's only just a couple of steps ahead of you, whom you could absorb information and learn more from. So that's also a sort of mentorship. And I think the ultimate or the best form of mentorship would be to really have someone you trust in your organization, senior to you, who can teach you and who can help you and who can sponsor your progression and development. That would be the best solution. But life is not perfect. Sometimes you will need, or sometimes you'd be, I'd encourage you to find a mentor other than your direct line manager, because then you have different sources of mentorship and you just want to make sure that they don't conflict in your mind, but at the same time they do bring different views, hopefully, and different ideas on that would benefit you. Quickly, when you're planning for your career, again, there was a training on planning for careers, so by all means, let me know and I will share it on Substack. But basically, you need to first define what you want, what you like, what you're naturally at. So know yourself, know your aspirations, define the gap between that and the actions that you need to take to achieve those aspirations or get to where you aspire to be. And then the third part is taking those timely actions and measure your progression and adjusting your trajectory based on what you assess every period or frequently. So that would be how I plan. There is many ways of planning for your career out there, and I don't think that there is one form of a career plan that is recognized as the most successful. I think there's many ways, but I found it the simpler way, and the best way is to just leave it very simple. Try to be aware of it, but focus more on doing and building and adding to your skill set and to your experience and your rapport. And at the same time, thinking of what will be the next step. But that next step cannot be too soon, cannot be frequent. You cannot change and move a lot because it can be harmful to you. You need to spend enough time in a place in order to get the maximum return on investment that you have put into the move and the organization, but also that the organization have put into you as an individual. So there is no one type of plan that I recommend. Rather, I feel that you just keep it simple, even if it's a one-liner that defines what your action is, and you take your time with that action. And lastly, how do you navigate or take choices? I think the criteria, and I do a pros and cons list, it's as simple and stupid as that. But we are driven and motivated by different factors and different aspects. We're all different, as I said in the beginning. We think differently. We've got different backgrounds, different cultural and professional backgrounds. We've lived through different experiences, so it's very normal to find or feel that a solution doesn't necessarily fit you as it fit others. And we're blessed as engineers that most of us are methodological. We like to follow a stepped or step by step approach. We like to think of things thoroughly. We like to list. I like making lists. I just love making lists. So, again, um, just feel free to list the different criteria that you look at. Now, when people send me messages or ask me about comparing between two different opportunities, the first thing I ask about is, what is this opportunity meaning to you in the future? For example, what I mean by that is how far will it push you into the future? So everything is a step, and stepping into a new organization or stepping into a new role or a different role will mean things for your career. In the long term, I don't think a single step would make a big difference, but sometimes it can make the difference. It can make, it can be your break. It can be the opportunity of the lifetime, etc., etc. But I don't prefer to think that way. I prefer to think of things in the context, in the now and then, and just, focus on doing the work. So when I'm considering, or when someone is considering two opportunities, I always tell them what motivates you. If it achieves what motivates you, then we move on to another criteria. Economically, does it work for you? Does it allow you to financially be stable? Does it allow you to plan for your future finances? And this is very important. One of the things that we lack is financial um, planning and financial awareness. And I am definitely financially illiterate. At least I was to an extent, I still am to an extent. So I'm working on myself, trying to learn more about financials, trying to put um, work on something for, because one day I will retire, hopefully. So these are all things that you need to think of when you are considering a role. But for me, the biggest criteria that I always think of, that I always prefer, that I always give priority over others, is growth potential. So if someone is offered two opportunities, of course, does it motivate you? Do you enjoy it? Does it give you the work life balance you're looking for, or whatever that is? Does it tick different boxes for you? Does it keep you engaged? Is it a friendly environment? Is it a positive environment? Will it look better on your CV, etc.? Will you make more money and gain more, etc., etc., etc.? But for me, it's mostly around, what are you going to learn, and how's that learning gonna take you forward? So I end with this. That is my number one priority: learning and growing as an engineer and as a person. And for that, you need to be open to trying different things, new things, and just keeping yourself curious and fundamentally engaged. I thank you very much for your time. If we don't have any other questions in the comments, I would like to bid you adieu. And until then, I will see you later. Stay safe. Um, okay, quick question. How can you get a job with a better package in electrical engineering? Experience. If you have more experience, if you have a higher quality of experience and a more diverse experience in terms of quantity and in terms of quality, you will be paid more, because experience is usually the best proof of your current capability. If you've done it before, you're able to do it again, most likely. There's no way to find out until you are in the job, of course, but that is what interviews are for. Interviews are for usually testing how you are um, articulating your capability and how you're going to carry out the role for us. That's what interviews are about. So interviewers usually depend on experience as the best proof. And this is how I'm telling you, if you have proven diverse level of experience that is high in levels of quantity and quality, you are going to be paid more. I am fresh, and someone is saying I am sorry. Can you explain how to get? Oh, I'm a fresh engineer. Okay. Um, this is a difficult question, but uh, because it depends. If you are in another country, I can't comment because I haven't worked in that country. There might be a higher competition there than here. Uh, but what I could tell you is, again, as a graduate, you are expected to be aware of the tools, aware of the systems, the components. You are um, a good, you or can exhibit good attributes for being a good team player, communicating clearly, showing interest and enthusiasm and curiosity about the field you are entering. So, how to do that? You need to do your homework, search, and see how you can learn to do that. So you are showing curiosity by learning more, by actually bringing up a topic that you stopped at and wanting to understand more about, that you remember about, that you can talk about something that fascinates you about those different systems. So these are things that you can bring up at interviews and graduate assessment panels. And as well, there is a wide range of tools and softwares and um, websites out there that help you um, practice for interviews as a fresh graduate, as an engineer, as a fresh engineer, and also um, rehearse or practice graduate assessment panels. Sorry, I'm trying to read the comments now. There's a lot of them, but I don't think I'll be able to answer all, because some of the questions, someone is telling me about mechanical engineering. I told you I'm not a mechanical engineer. What can I tell you about mechanical engineering? It's engineering of mechanics. I don't know. You need to ask a mechanical engineer. Um, I have knowledge of power systems and machines. Very good. So the more you practice interviews, the more you practice graduate assessment panels, the more opportunities will come your way. And try to um, apply for roles that are really open and really serious about developing people. So, as I said, the big players, the big OEMs, the big companies, they have programs that take on more people, that develop more people, and they are serious about it. So, find those companies that are serious about that, and find the early career advisors, the early career recruiters. Those people are on LinkedIn. You're welcome. Thank you. Good luck. All the best with your job search. So yeah, you need to find those people on LinkedIn and follow them, see what they're advertising for, see what kind of profiles or candidates they're looking for. And here you go. I thank you very much again, and I appreciate your time. Um, there's more questions, but I gotta go. It's really almost, well, it's past 9 o'clock here. So I thank you very much. Stay safe. Enjoy your evening. I hope you enjoyed this session as much as I did. And until then, all the best. Stay curious, stay learning, and feel free to list any questions in the comments or find me on Substack and just list your questions over there. Until then, take care. All the best.